It took us 234 years to get here. There's reason to believe it'll take another 234 before we see another mugshot of a former president of the United States. This is something that only Donald Trump was able to achieve with his presidency, to bring the presidency to this low point.
He looks enraged. I mean, I think the look, what I see there, there's a pathos to that look. There's an anger to that look. And, you know, Donald Trump has kind of thrived on the anger of a certain demographic of Americans who've decided the country's sort of leaning away from them and what they think is important and, you know, not prioritizing them and the things they value and care about. He's like sort of embodying that. He's sort of the avatar for the rage that he has traded off of to become president in the first place. That is not the, you know, sort of funny reality show star that Americans elected in 2016. That is a sinister apparition that I'm seeing in front of me.
Well, he spent days rehearsing that pose. Yeah. That's the picture that he wanted.
I think that what's always remarkable are these moments that, having once been in the Republican Party, I always look around and Rachel says, why do you do that? Yes.
There's somebody here.
So what is to us all these things? It is everything you described and both of you. On the right, for Trump's base, this is what hope and change was to the Obama base. This will become an iconic image of their leader. And so I think there are these moments that can illustrate the dramatic and violent breaking into of our country that he ushered in. I think this picture will be one of them.
And what Joy is describing is what she described as sort of sinister. That was the word you used, of the anger that she's seeing there. You think that'll be the sort of touchstone of this for the right, but in a way that makes them...
This picture means something different to Trump's base. And again, I'm far enough away from it to not know exactly what it is. But this picture will take on a totally different... potentially irrational.
They're gonna sell T-shirts. This will be. First of all, they're already posting pictures of themselves with the insignia photoshopped, as sort of, you know, solidarity. But this will be, you know, he's a political prisoner. He's our great hero,
martyr.
Brought low by the terrible deep state. It is instantly iconic, though. Why are we all The mugshot has loomed so large over the Fulton County proceedings.
I think it's the only one.
It's loomed so large, like anticipation of the mugshot. When are we going to see the mugshot? The mugshot. When do we got John Eastman's mugshot? Like, I think part of it has to do with like the sort of equal justice under law. I think part of it has to do with the fact that like the way that mugshots tend to work in news coverage is like a lot of black and brown people who are like locked up and then thrown on the cover of the New York Post or the Evening News. Is what a lot of the mugshots that we get, that we consume and produce in American media. So there's something like, it feels like some sort of like fitting, actual, effectuation of equal justice under law that like the highest, most powerful person once in the country has to do this as well.
Well, I can tell you for me, it is, when I moved back to New York, one of the mugshots that sit with me, I mean, I still remember that he made 5 teenagers my age take a mugshot. Yeah. That he wanted them not just take a mugshot, he wanted them dead.
Say what that case was.
And this was the Central Park 5 case, the exonerated 5, and they were my age. Yeah. So as a teenager living in New York, I've said it before, this is the reason I never watched The Apprentice. I despised Donald Trump because he, to me, signified the rich white guy in Manhattan that absolutely hated and despised me, that hated and despised my cousins, my friends, everyone we knew, that called us wilding just because we were in the park, that said we can't be free to walk around in the street, that said when Patrick Dorismond got killed by an off-duty police officer, he's no choir boy. And he was was no altar boy. He was literally an altar boy. Giuliani said that. And so people like Giuliani and people like Trump persecuted black and brown people in New York. It's what they did for fun. It's what they did for pleasure. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed lording over people who had nothing, who had no $1-million lawyers, who couldn't change lawyers at the drop of a hat and get a different hip hop lawyer the next day when they were tired of one, who couldn't go out and make their case on, Fox or on Newsmax, who had nothing, and who Donald Trump lorded his everything over, and still people who looked like them put him in rap songs. It was an indignity to me that something I loved, a culture I love, would lionize that. And so to me, this is justice. The fact that Manhattan didn't give him a mugshot, I thought was offensive. I thought that the Fed said, we already know what he looks like. He was the president of the United States. Okay, offensive. Everyone else had to take him. This case, and I think Fani Willis is a hero. She is a national hero because she, more than any prosecutor in this country, and I respect Jack Smith and I respect all the prosecutors that are doing this, she's the only one who said these wealthy, powerful, privileged men and women are just American citizens. And when they break the law, they will take that picture.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think it's a fair criticism of everybody else. And I think even when the sense of timing has felt unsatisfying in terms of the delay, perceived delay, reported delay by the Washington Post, Fani Willis opened the case the day that Carol Leonnig report reminded me today, the day after the Washington Post had all the reporting on the tape and the call. She's the only person that has been the antidote to Trump saying, don't believe your eyes, don't believe your ears, believe me. She saw it with her own eyes, she heard with her own ears, and she started investigating.
Amen.
I think we can expect to see this photograph in a Trump email money solicitation
Yes.
before midnight.
Yeah, before the end of
I mean, the overall feeling about this, right? It's a little bit of a Rorschach test, as you're describing, in terms of how it feels, in terms of your personal experience of him as a political figure, how it's going to feel depending on your place in the ideological number line. Absolutely. Whether or not you're a Trump supporter will determine a lot of how you feel about this image. But at core, the question of how we react to this image comes down to, in terms of the health of the country, regardless of his individual fate. The question is whether you look at that and you think that is a man who went wrong, and this is the consequence of it. Look at him being subjected to the criminal process. Or whether you look at that and think this is the criminal process gone wrong. Mm-hmm. This is the criminal justice system being used for the kind of person, a politician, a national political leader, who should never be subjected to it. It must be a misuse of the criminal justice system against him. And for every Republican who says that they don't like Trump's behavior and they don't necessarily support him, and maybe they wouldn't even support him if he's the nominee, but this criminal justice system has been weaponized against him, they are trying to make the national response to this moment the latter, which is about making sure that we don't have criminal justice that applies to all citizens equally.
You're right.
And that is a playing with fire. That's, again, it's absolutely unrelated to Trump's individual fate. Mm-hmm. But it's about whether or not you see the application of the criminal justice system to his alleged behavior as something that is important about him, or whether you see it as something that is important about the system in terms of who's gone wrong, in terms of what's been twisted, what's unusual, how we got to this moment. And that narrative is very, very contested, even by people in the so-called normal Republican Party right now.
You saw it on the stage. I mean, there were some fireworks around funding for Ukraine, around, I don't know,
abortion restrictions.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah. There were no fireworks around whether or not they would support Trump, other than Asa Hutchinson, who was the last person to make the debate, has the least amount of support and was booed. They agree, perhaps more than anything else, on the fact that they will support Donald Trump if he's their nominee.
And that there's some sort of problem in the criminal justice system that needs to be addressed. I mean, to have Tim Scott, who is not a fire-breathing MAGA candidate, to have Tim Scott get up there and say, day one, I'm going to fire Merrick Garland and I'm going to fire Chris Wray. Well, first of all, everybody gets their own attorney general, so that's not that weird. And firing the FBI director, who's Trump's appointee, that's okay, also a little weird. But the reason he has to peacock on that issue as irrationally as he did is because in the Republican Party, there's now, even among non-MAGA people, this appetite to somehow subject the criminal justice system and the legal system to partisan influence, using this canard that this is Joe Biden's prosecution or persecution of his political enemy. And you see even very responsible Republicans playing with that particular fire. And it's consequential, and that's the soul of the nation stuff, regardless of this individual man's soul. I should just say it's also, just for reset purposes, it is now 9 p.m. In Atlanta. It's 9 p.m. in the East Coast, where today former President Donald Trump did surrender and was booked at the Fulton County Jail on federal criminal charges. He moved through the booking process quickly. He got to jump all the lines. It went fast for him in a matter of minutes. He returned then to the airport in Atlanta. He made brief remarks about Once again, the election being rigged, saying the charges against him in Fulton County and elsewhere amount to election interference, essentially implying that the application of the criminal justice system to his alleged crimes is illegitimate and is a partisan use of a system that is not for that purpose and therefore is illegitimate. He then flew home to his golf club thing in Bedminster, New Jersey. The lasting image of this day, of course, will be this mugshot. Taken inside the Fulton County Jail, released by the Fulton County Sheriff. We have never had a president, former or current, with a mugshot before. This will not be an easy image for anyone to forget. Our friend Alex Wagner is joining us now. Alex, I don't want you to do like art criticism, but I have to ask.
I did study art history in college.
I know, so that's why I don't want to like go to you as our like visual art critique expert, but I do want to get your reaction.
I find it distressing. He's clearly quite angry in it. I also think everybody should get very used to that image because we're going to see it emblazoned on a lot of things for a long time. And to me, it seems like, honestly, the starting gun of the next year, which is this bizarre split screen we are going to see between a man who is running for president and a man who's defending himself in multiple criminal trials. This is the beginning of it. This is the merch, if you will, for the year ahead. And I don't think any of us are really mentally prepared for the complications, the tests. Donald Trump in recent weeks or in the last week started to temper his language around January 6th and it being a stolen election, at least for a day. He seemed to be listening to his lawyers and was couching his language a little bit more cautiously. I don't think that's going to last. And I think what we're going to have to sort of manage as a democracy, as journalists, as just onlookers to history is the ways in which this individual mugshotted here is going to test what is legally allowed for him to say as a defendant and as a candidate. I think the justice system is going to be tested like never before. I think our ability to tenaciously follow this as Americans.